All right, folks, welcome back. We are getting into game number 1 in a brand new best of 3. This is going to be a ZvP between two fantastic European players. In the bottom left side of the map, we've got the Finnish Protoss. He's red. He's playing for Ents Esports now. It's Welmu.
In the top right, as the blue Zerg, he is Zanster.
By the way, Welmu has got to have one of the most distinctively easily identified ways of speaking I've heard out of any of the esports players we've met. Like,
Are they specific?
he rolls a lot of letters. Like, you know when you roll your R, he rolls a lot of letters. I remember when the first time I met him was in person at Hell's Boot time, and I had no idea what he was saying right away. But then after like 5 minutes of talking to him, it becomes very clear the way he's speaking, and you suddenly understand it, like it clicks. But that Finnish accent, or whatever that is quite strong in this guy. Actually, I forgot both of these guys were at Hell's Boot time, just thinking on it.
Yes, they were. That is true. I don't think they ever faced each other, though.
Not in our tournament brackets, no, but I distinctively remember poor Zanster and his epic sober stories, we'll say.
Yeah, sober stories. Completely sober.
Wink.
Yeah, anyway. So, I was going to say, I kind of understand what you mean about his accents. It is a distinguishable one, I suppose. Yeah, anyway. I think
it's cool.
Before,
I love accents of all variety. Like, I think it's super cool.
I agree. I actually really don't like Spanish accents, though.
I don't like Spanish accents when they're yelling, for example, but like just a regular Spanish accent I'm cool with.
Yeah. I like some, because I actually like that girl on Modern Family, who I know
I'm guessing
you're thinking of.
Or whatever. Yeah, that's exactly who I was thinking
exactly.
of.
I actually think that she's...
Jay!
It works for her really well, but in general, I usually don't, so I don't know what's up with that. And I recently realized that I always thought, because I always like the Southern Belle, like, hey, y'all, type of deal, but actually listening to, like, Southern accents, country accents, I'm glad I don't have one. I'm glad I wasn't born out.
Well, of course, I think for me at least, Australian beats all, but we're not going to see any Australians here in the European tournament. Boo-hoo.
Oh.
But going back to the players from out, because we did talk about them a little bit before the game, but not too much in-game here. So for the sake of VODs, it's worth noting we've seen Welmu playing in a lot of things recently. He's actually been playing the heck out of Ladder, because I keep seeing pop up on everybody's stream. Of course, most notably was that weird Ravager bug we found with him on TLO's stream. But Zanster, as we had said... We haven't seen a lot of him. Something's been taking up his time. Maybe it's school, maybe it's girlfriend, maybe it's job. I don't know. But we haven't seen him play nearly as much as he was in the past. Or maybe he's actually just been like Super Saiyan training and saving himself for the big tournaments like WCS qualifiers. But the point is, the last time we got to see Zanster, he was actually off racing in a random versus random tournament and kicking ass. He got to the finals, lost, but he still looked good with other races. So I'm hoping his Zerg is kept up to par.
Yeah, so it's going to be, I guess, a reintroduction into what Zanster looks like, where we kind of have an idea of where Welmu is. Although still, like, Welmu is not the guy that we see all the time in our tournaments, you know? Like, he is once every once in a while. It's the deal with Protoss in general, though.
I'm just gonna put it out there, like, still for me, Welmu, my most definable Welmu moment was him versus the Muslim in the third place match of our, like, the big one, or whatever that first tournament was.
Ah, yeah.
Because
that was so long ago.
It was, like, on Overgrowth, there was the proxy, like, it was in the mineral line of the Muslim, like, it was such a fun and stupid best of 3, I loved it.
Yeah, it was. Well, Zanster certainly kept up on the meta.
Yes.
So we have the exact same thing we just saw in the last series, the same map.
What's so silly about this is obviously you can't just like jump into the game blindly as a Protoss player and assume anything, because Zerg can go a lot of different tech paths really, really quickly. But what I find really interesting is we've seen only out of Puck, out of all players, just go back to like a century heavy army and say, what banlings? Like, it's ridiculous how easily they are shut down, but because so much other parts of this matchup are more necessary, like you need Immortals now more than ever. Before you wanted them for an all-in, now you need them to deal with Lurkers and Ravager all-ins and crazy things. You need Phoenix, you need things to shoot up for the potential, not even for the actual, but for the potential of Mutalisks. Like, unfortunately, you just don't have the gas to dedicate to sentries like you used to. So while I say this as if it's some easy task to accomplish, it certainly isn't.
It's we've always felt for Protoss, because Protoss have had the least amount of fun times in Legacy of the Void, shall we say? Because they haven't
Oh.
always been the underpowered race. They've had their times, and they've had their heroes, shall we say, like Zest, for instance. But in general, it feels like Protoss, of course they were the ones that had to change the most, but are still having to adapt the most and have to deal with like these super powerful lanes early on from Zerg, or in this case, a very powerful change in the meta and what Zergs are doing, and one that is actually still difficult to deal with for a lot of Protosses. Like, how do I defend against against Banelings and Lings, while also, like, making sure I don't just die to Roaches and Lurkers?
Hmm.
What the hell is that smell? It smells like a tire is burning in my house, and I feel like that's not a good thing.
I like that you asked that, almost with some indication that maybe I would have an answer. Like, Rifkin, did you fart? I can smell it all the way here from America. All right, so Welmu has been doing a little bit for us. He saw the 4th base go down and maybe thought that Zanster was just going to actually play a little more macro than he is, but he didn't see the Banelings, he didn't see the Overlords. Here on the left side, he might just get some kills in the natural. There's not 2 Overlords going in like we saw with Lambo in the series prior to this, so Zanster is going to have to do a bit of baiting, and a significant amount of Lings at the front is certainly worth looking at. But Welmu's put down double Immortals, Robo Production. He's got double Immortals coming out. Looks like the Overcharge is going to get popped. These Banelings will not get a lot done. In fact, the Phoenix can just pick him up.
Yeah. That was nicely done. It was nicely handled.
Nice attempt, but Welmu was not fooled.
Nope. And he is still getting those Immortals, so I wonder... Okay, never mind. I don't have to wonder for very long, because the lair finishes and instantly turns into a hive, so...
Whoa.
That's interesting. I was gonna say, like, the Muta swap could still be dangerous because it is only, like, the handful of Phoenix that you start off with, and you can still get a lot of initial damage done with the Mutas, and hell, might even snowball to win you the game. But to actually go straight to Ultras when he scouted the double Robo and the Immortals, I don't know about Ultras.
Well, actually, if this is going to be straight to Broodlords, I like that quite a bit. Or even if it's just Adrenal Glands for the Lings. But a quick question, did you see Lair finish and he went straight to Hive?
Yeah?
You can't do that. You would need to build an infestation pit.
Oh, whatever. The infestation pit finished and he went straight to Hive.
Sorry. But anyways, yeah, the Ultras, I agree. You saw the double Robos at the front. To do this for Zanster would be insane, I feel. They are still beefy units that just have a lot of health, so maybe it's still worth it to make 1 or 2, but I would definitely say that this seems like something that would be more conducive to either just flooding Lings and Banelings and going like Adrenal Glands, maybe a couple of Mutas on the side, or Broodlords. Broodlords would certainly work well, even if there's Phoenix in play, as long as there's not Tempest in play. But this is so many Lings still being produced. Like, it really does feel to me like this feels almost like 3-3 and Adrenal Glands more than anything else, but he hasn't started those. He's got the money for it.
Yeah, the Adrenal Glands for sure. He's waiting on the other upgrades. He's going to have at least 2-1, but you're right. He has a lot of money for anything right here, and it just seems like he's waiting to use it for that Spire. Yeah. But it's also turned to a greater Spire. I mean...
Well, either way, I feel
Hive and just making mutas.
With the ability to surround, with the amount of Lings he has, in fact, he's just going to counterattack into the 3rd base while this goes on. He's got so many Lings. He's got so many. He's building 42 Banelings. So forget what we said about Gas for just one moment. I don't think he's thinking Broodlords at all. But this is such an enormously large amount of units. He's going to break both the pylons. Ling's just going to jump right on top of this. No chance for a recall because the army is across the map. So Welmu only has 1 chance. And let's go forward. Now, that's not all the Banelings. I thought for a second it was. Don't worry, there's still like another 30 at the top of this ramp. So going to collide here into the Zealots. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Even the Immortals almost dying to this. The Lings are so scared of these Archons, but they really, I almost feel, shouldn't be. There's just so much damage. Zanster is just throwing bodies and bodies and bodies. He's got the killbot strategy.
He did take down the 3rd base, though, so this was an all-in from Welmu, and it did not work. It actually did not touch the economy of Zanster. The one problem I could foresee is a larva problem, to be honest. Like, that's so many Lings.
He made a macro hatchery. He's got like a 4th and a 5th base. I mean, he's kind of, I feel, good to go.
Yeah, it's not a problem, which is a big problem for Welmu.
Yeah. Now, I do feel like the lack of Adrenal Glands was certainly a bit disappointing to see, but the Greater Spire started when this fight began. It's finishing now. So he's going to have Broodlings to follow this up. I don't think defending to this point should be that difficult either. There just really isn't a lot of pressure. For Phoenix, that's nothing. A Warp Prism, as long as the Lings are on top of the Warp-ins immediately, again, not a problem. So for Zanster, I mean, we question, what sort of shape is this guy in? And I'm thinking we really did have, like, the hyperbaric time chamber effect where he was just training for the big fight. Did I get it right? I don't know which one it is.
Anyway,
which was the Dragon Ball Z one? I actually don't know. I'm asking.
hyperbolic.
Okay, there you go. So hyperbaric's the one for when you need to be repressurized. Got it.
And hyperdrolic is. No, I'm just kidding.
Wait, there's a third one? Alright, so actually, this is worth noting. Welmu identified that this was so heavy into the banelings and links, he went for a lot of sentries. The problem is, I don't think he realized the greater Spire finish while this went on, because the sentries aren't going to eject squat against the Broodlords, which are morphing directly here on the front line. So while the Zealots may have been a bit of an issue otherwise, the Broodlords will just say, screw your force fields, I can throw units above and over them.
Yeah, yeah. I am surprised that Welmu even had a second attack in
GG.
here, but that doesn't work out either. Yeah.
Zanster, what a god. He's going to take game number 1. Also, I can't get too excited. I gotta calm down because this Clearcaster bias would be. If we start to keep winning, we're just gonna have ZVZs.
Yeah, be careful what you wish for, brother.
Right? You're like, oh, Rift's not doing too bad. So we had a donation, by the way. I'm sorry we missed it. We got caught up. From Baloo again, or different spelling, different person. I don't know, but $5 came and says, "What do I gotta do to make you love me? What do I gotta do to make you care? What do I do when lightning strikes me and awake to find that you're not there?" Oh, wait, that's a song. What is that?
I don't know what song that is. I figured it was a song very shortly into it, but
it's it jogs something in my memory, but I really don't remember what song it is at all. And I was looking at game number 2 here in a moment. So I'm going to be hosting this up. Let me join off. Yeah, there we go.
Okay, you can do that if you want.
I need to find like a good green screen to actually put in the background instead of a green screen. Green screening a green screen is so lame. Ugh, let's get rid of that.
Everyone does it.
Yeah, everyone. Shut up. I'll try and find something a little bit more fun later on. Tweet me ideas, guys. Tweet me ideas of what you want to see in my background for the cast today at riff_kings on Twitter. But second map is going to be Invader. So this isn't loser's pick. There's actually a very different dynamic to this, where if you have the maps preset and you lose your map, it can kind of really hurt going into game number 2 like that. But if it's loser's pick, you kind of get to choose. You get to be like, oh yeah, I want to. I'd rather play on Prion for the next one.
Yeah, it does change the dynamic a little bit, so I don't know if this. I want to say it's not so great for Welmu, but we'll see.
So updating the brackets, by the way, is Vortex does, I guessed earlier, go to fight against Namshar, another person I want to keep an eye on the bracket, and he beats him as well. But, we're gonna have a Team Liquid kill soon. Talk to you about that more in a moment. Hop to the intro first. Alright, we're back, and just to comment on what I was saying before we got into the game, TLO is currently playing against Botvinnik, but should he win, he will go on to fight against Vortex next. So keep an eye on those brackets, guys, because even though we're not casting all the matches, there's still some fantastic games going on. And, well, apparently we won't be casting this one either at this rate. We're to leg it out of his own game.
You okay, buddy?
It's like, I feel like you got a little cat that's hurt. You're like, I see Welmu like hunched over, and he's just like, gently petting it, like, you okay? Oh my
Whenever
god.
I see anything about like a cat that was like on the side of the road, or you know, that anime that I watched, I have to go hug like Apollo and just cuddle.
Actually, I got a super cute animal story for you, but let's get these shoutouts and intros done first. First off, thank you Ta_for the 9-month resub, as well as oh my god, Bad Beats LOL for 3 months. But kicking us off, he's down 1 in the series, but he's certainly still fighting in the top left side, playing for NC Esports. It's going to be the blue Protoss Welmu.
Playing for in the top right as the red Zerg.
My.
It's Zanster. What are you doing?
My insanity? I don't know.
my.
We just had like a little bit of a dubstep thing going on here.
It's like a seagull dubstep.
No, actually, it's like the that strong bad. The system is down. The system is down. Anyways, I was going to tell you a story where on my walk home yesterday, some of you guys may have seen I posted a stupid picture with some of the horses. I also saw a bunny rabbit across the road. It was super cute. So
a bunny rabbit?
I figured if I ran across the road, I would probably scare it away. So I just like zoomed in on my camera and I took like 40 pictures. And one of the pictures I got is him like mid-hop. So it just kind of looks like he's flying and hovering above the ground. It was super cute. That's not Rickup's cute noises, guys. Unfortunately, she makes these frequently around her cat, and it's very confusing when you're having a serious conversation, and in the middle of it, she's just like...
I don't even know who I learned it from, you know, because I'm pretty sure my mom doesn't make it. My dad definitely doesn't. I don't know.
It's a zombie grub special is what we'll call it. Anyways, Invader has done a couple of funny things with its map. It's been changed, it's been tweaked. You don't have these ramps horizontally anymore. Not that they really showed to be that much of a problem, but you know, whatever Blizzard deemed to remove them. Zanster could certainly try and pull off some of the similar tactics. Like if you really want to stick to Lings and Banelings, I think a lot of that really has to do with really catching Welmu off guard and reading what he has. Like I think if you see double robos, you know Lings are going to be good, so you can afford to flood them because nobody goes Colossus anymore. But if you get across the map and you see like 5 gateways, 1 robo, I don't think you get away with that as easily.
Well, we'll see. I mean, it feels like Azur is just going for it and brute forcing. I mean, he went through a very healthy composition of a mortal Archon charge. The charge outs are actually exposed to taken by the Banelings, so that isn't too mysterious. But the Archon's dying to the mass amount of Banelings. Like, the Immortal's actually getting picked off. That's just brute force.
Well, oh my. We just had a rather generous donation coming in from...
Oh my.
This is a terrible donation. I'm going to read
Wow.
this, but I just want you to know while
Too soon.
Too soon indeed. All right, we got a donation from Life from Kespa Jail. Donates $40 and says, I can't fix SC2 matches anymore, but at least I can control this. Blue hair for zombie grub. Hype is Kate. So at least we know this is a subscriber, but which scum subscriber is it to make that joke?
So, you know, I'm like fairly sure as to what shade of white I'm going to get if I had to do white hair, but I have no idea what to do for blue hair. There's like dark blue all the way up to like super light blue.
Well, I was gonna say actually, as we keep getting these types of donations in, it feels like almost like a craps table. Like I'll put 40 on red, I'll put 40 on blue.
It does actually, yeah. When you start talking about it, like 40 on red, 50 on blue, 100 on pink.
Oh, that actually puts blue ahead by $1, by the way.
Oh shit!
So you got to change your chat color again to
do.
match it. All right, so I haven't changed my chat color actually. I was converted by Nathanius. He WOLO-loaded me like 7 months ago, and I've been the same color ever since. But anyways, we got Bailey's coming down out of Zanster. He's going for +1. He's going for lots of Lings. Again, this may not actually be the dedication to that insanely fast hive and the ridiculous amount of Lings that we saw last game. But it could be, and a lot of that's going to be based off of what he sees through attacks. This Overlord speed finish gets huge scouts on the base. And again, if you see a single Stargate opener, that's his Lings can work. Because even if it's an Oracle or even if it's Phoenix, they're going to have a limited amount of damage they can do to kill Lings.
Actually, have we talked about that Oracle game? Oh my god. Who was it, though? I can remember. I'm
glad you brought this up. Fantastic.
No, I can remember the map, but I can't remember the player. It was on Frozen Temple, and it was just like it was during the Alima League. Yeah, it was against Sulky. It was
Seed.
Yes, you're right. Damn it. I was getting there.
Like, you could have just said Alima League, and I would have been able to tell you Seed right away. You gave me no information for so long.
Because I couldn't remember. It was literally like, okay, Frozen Temple. Okay, roughly like, you know, a couple days ago. Actually, would have been like a week ago. Okay, hold on.
So here's the thing. Zombie and I have some pretty good synergy. Like, we always talk about, like, if we ever played like charades or something, we'd fucking nail it, right? First word, first guess. But Zombie Grub is like, sometimes it's not good at you providing information. Like,
because I didn't have information to provide to you.
That one game with that one Protoss. You know what I'm talking about? Like,
I remembered more specific things, but you should have remembered, to be fair, the game with the Oracles, because that is the only game that we have seen recently. Because you either would have gone, okay, that one game with the troll guy, like the one that really wasn't too good, but he went like mass Oracles, and then you would have been like, oh, bam.
See, I didn't even know you were referencing mass Oracles, because Phoenix openers are so common.
The game with the Oracles?
No, I literally thought you were talking about a game with an Oracle opener, because Phoenix openers are so common. Like, I'm not trying to counter troll you here. Like, if you had said mass Oracles, that would have been another big piece of information.
I doubt our charades now. I really do.
You know, I do as well. You're seeming like a less and less desirable person to play anything with. I wouldn't even play Pictionary with you. I wouldn't even play Pictionary with you.
So to counter a very rough +1 timing with Banelings, Seed went mass Oracles. And if you were worried about that, then that's an option. But Welmu wasn't worried. He didn't have to be worried. Zanster didn't even really commit to an attack. And he's just going for, again, a really quick hive around the same time. Maybe like seconds later.
It's certainly worth noting, though, that while the Lings were cool and the Banelings were flashy in that last game, it was the Broodlords that won him, like, that final push and that final fight. But regardless of what this ends up looking like, I guess Zanster doesn't have a lot of information since that first attack, there's a hell of a lot of gateways coming down. There's a hell of a lot of production about to pick up. And I would hope, at least with an Overlord or something, he gets in there to see what's going on. Because while you can certainly say, like, look, if I've got 200 Banelings, I'm probably going to win a fight. Great, but can you win the follow-up? Can you go further than just fighting in the middle of the map? Like, can you defend counterattacks, harass? Like, there's so much that goes on right now. Unfortunately, Zanster has no idea. He's seen some Phoenix harass. It's certainly been annoying. It forced out a lot of Spore Crawlers, actually. But for the most part, doesn't really have anything too definitive to work with. There's going to be a warp in coming here momentarily. And I wonder if he even saw the robo at the third. He did not. He's not even seen the robo at the third. So that's some context on where Zanster's at with information in this game.
So I was like wondering about this map compared to Dusk Towers for those Ling run bys that devastated in the last game. That really made Welmu like all in above and beyond. And I think that it might be harder. Like Zanster would have to preset a lot of Lings off to the very, very left and just hope they were never scouted, which could be very difficult to do. Whereas in Dusk Towers, they actually just ran by the army mostly to get there. It's such an odd map, especially now they took out the pathways in the horizontal spawns.
Well, what's really striking me as odd is look at the resources lost. Like, we've had no engagements for anything up to this point. Like, nothing. And I feel for Zanster, that's a little bit too dangerous to do. Although, here we go with 22 Lings. He's going for Adrenal Glands. I don't know if they'll be ready for this fight. But the Zealots are really, like, you consider what this army is, and it's, like, mostly Zealots. It's, like, 80% Zealots. The Banelings will take care of those. Same with the Warp-ins. Same with the Harass that's going on.
This is very interesting to warp in High Templars with that and trim into Archons up there. That, I don't know about that. He saves one of the Archons, though, which is interesting.
Force fields
go down. That was actually pretty good. And
but the Archons
luckily,
break them. They're
well,
clumsy
yeah, that was a bad idea. But I was also going to say is that the Archons and the Immortals were covering the charge lots. So a lot of these Banelings are going off in the Archons, which is still, like, impressive. Like, good job taking on an Archon, but they're supposed to be for the Zealots.
Right, it's really weird to look at that, too, because you got to consider these are, like, Tier 2, Tier 3 units that are covering Tier 1 units. You know, normally the Tier 1 units are just, like, the cannon fodder for the Tier 3 units. You want the big Tier 2 units to come through at the end, but with the Zealots being still primarily alive and not a lot of Banelings left, these will absolutely rock the world of a lot of these Zerglings. But I take that back because a couple Banelings do find their way into the heart of that army and Welmu down on supply. But you know, so is Zanster. I didn't realize, like, he still doesn't really recover from the damage in the main.
Yeah.
His Ling count is non-existent. You need lots of Lings to make the work. GG.
That was a big problem, was the main base. It actually was not cleaned up at all and killed so many drones. I think if he had 30 drones, he maybe floods enough, but there were a lot of charge outs being warped in, and he just didn't have time to make Banelings.
Well, that was a great comeback from Welmu as he ties up the series now 1-1. We're going to go to a small 2-minute break, nothing long. We'll be back shortly with game number 3, folks. Okay, we are hopping directly back into game. You guys aren't missing any of the action as we get into game number 3. It's tied up 1-1. These are the DreamHack Tour qualifiers. It's also the Spring Championship for WCS, so you can consider these the WCS qualifiers. Got a couple donations to get caught up on, but let's get these intros done first. In the top left side of Frozen Temple, it's going to be the red Protoss Welmu.
In the bottom right, as the blue Zerg, it's Zanster.
In this game, by the way, we're going to find out whether Zanster is a one-trick pony and only has Ling and Baneling builds in his pocket, or if it really was just like misunderstanding and misreading what the situation was last game. There was some really cool control points from Welmu to bring up for certain, especially with the way he was protecting his Zealots, but ultimately I don't think Zerglings were the best choice for that situation. At any rate, we got a couple donations to read out really quick. So first comes in from Byung, apparently. Wow, this guy is, whoa, jeez. $5 says, yeah, blue hair for zombie up, definitely. By the way, I regret many of the things I've done. Too soon, man. Like, just too soon. Bella Baloo also donates $5. This is 1 for the money and the free rides. It's 2 for the lie that you denied. All rise, I'm disappointed. It's from Blue, the best band and even better color. And then Time to Tell finishes it all off with a 21-month resub. So that puts Blue in the lead once again. Which I'm so surprised. I really thought it would be red. Like, I really, truly thought it'd be red, if anything.
Well, considering that that's what the Twitter votes were largely in favor of, I would have expected it to reflect a little bit more accurately with the Twitch donations. But,
well, with those 2 $5 donations back-to-back, that'll put Blue at 226, by the way. So quite ahead of White now. But anyways, as far as this game goes, Frozen Temple did have some changes to it. One of them, most notably, is the like it's the Unbreakable Rocks or Unbuildable Rocks location. Swapped sides on the ramp.
Yeah, so that's the way it was supposed to be. They definitely made a mistake at the last one.
Okay, so here's the thing. Like, I agree, this is better. For quality of life changes, this is better. But it still takes the same amount of buildings to wall off than as if you had built in front of it on the other side. Like, it didn't change the dynamic of a wall off at all. Like, it'll still be one pylon and 2 gateways to fully wall this off, right? That's the exact same thing you could have done with the plates where they were before. So I feel like that change was not the biggest deal in the world. I'm sure there's probably one select scenario I'm not considering right now where maybe in like PvT you could get like a pylon just barely in for an overcharge or something. Now you can, or I don't know. But either way, not a big deal, but just worth noting they changed the map yesterday to reflect that. So circling stance around a little bit should get picked up by the mothership core, and this really shouldn't be too much for Zanster to deal with.
That was a mistake. Something would have been like that. And it is one that Welmu took advantage of. So
yeah, that supply blocks him. He was getting ready to build more lings with us too.
Yeah. So, you brought up how like the lings last game did not look so great, and that maybe he misread the situation a little bit. And then he's not necessarily a one-trick pony. I mean, no Zerg ever really should be. They have so many all-ins first of all, and then of course they have the different composition to use against Protoss. They should never just be relying on this new fancy Baneling thing. But it is a situation where it worked very well the first game, and Welmu didn't do anything differently that first game other than micro better.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I feel like the saying, if it's not broken, don't fix it, far outweighs everything else that you could consider, but I don't know. I would hope to see him shake it up a bit. I think this map as well, as funny as it is to say, like, I don't want to see it, it's actually not too bad for that strategy. There's a lot of ways. There's 3 different ways around the middle of the map. There's wide engagement areas, so force fields will be necessary if you want to take those fights. So if Zanster actually went for that strategy, specifically to play to the map, I wouldn't even question it.
Well, we don't have any indicators yet that he's going to stay on these lings. It's making a lot of lings. He is making a lot of lings, but there's no +1 and there's no Baneling Nest yet. But, I mean, this could just be the old-fashioned type of ling all-in, you know? Like, just make as many lings as possible and try and get through the natural, at the very least, cancel, a bit too greedy of a third base. But they're actually going to have to be used initially to deal with these Adepts, which they were rallied to the middle of the map and then have to quickly come back and try and deal with this. That should be done, though. 4 workers down is not too big of a deal, and the Adepts are going to be able to leave.
Yeah, so with the Adepts getting out of the base, you're going to have these at home for defense, which is nowadays more important than it ever was in the past. Like, even in consideration of Legacy of the Void, I'm not even talking HOTS. Like, you used to just be able to overcharge, like, 1 pylon, and you'd be good to go against, like, a whole army. Not necessarily the case anymore. And pylons getting focused on so quickly with Banelings the way they are, you really do need some sort of units behind it. But Double Stargate got revealed upon death. This is actually a pretty big change up for Welmu, who had been playing 1 Stargate up to this point. Now, Zanster's got to make 2 decisions off of this. One is to go for Roach Warden, which I actually agree with. But secondly, like, you could still, again, flood lings. If you're worried about a lot of Phoenixes can't pick up 50 lings. They just can't.
Yeah. That is certainly true, but I am wondering about another option here for Zanster. He's getting a lot of queens, but, you could just say, well, that's his only defense right now. But still no lair, and, okay, that's a lot of roaches coming out. There is an attack on this map that really is like one we saw on Lairlac. It's a rather short distance from your ramp to their ramp, and not much farther beyond that, third to third. And you can spread creep really quickly, even without multiple queens. And at some point, you do just want to stop spreading creep with all of them because you want transfuses. But I think he's going to go for that attack. Welmu might be able to scout this just by seeing the amount of units popping out, but also seeing the lack of a lair. I don't know if he actually is going to be paying attention to that, though. He's, right now just always eyeing those drones, but I think he has recognized something is up. He started building pylons on the top of the ramp. He's moved his army to the top of the ramp, too. He sees the Ravagers forming now, and it's a big attack that can be very difficult to hold.
This almost gets there before the pylons were done, and should they have been able to knock down those pylons and have no overcharge, this would have been a very different fight. But with the Phoenixes ready to crowd control 4 of these units, with the Queens not having that many transfuses, Zanster attacking into this would be a little bit suicidal. I love the wraparound, though. Oh, if he attacks through the front with the Roaches and Ravagers, he'll know with the Ravager Corrosive Bile he can break force fields. Then comes around the side with the Ling simultaneously. Oh, that would be such a sick flank. I really like the potential setup he has here, because Welmu really has not hit his stride in production, and having just wasted even a couple Graviton beams, Phoenixes are very limited in what they can shoot and what they can lift up to shoot.
Yeah, he's still producing from basically anything they can. Stargates and Robo coming out with an Immortal. The Lings flood into the front, and they're going to flood into the left as well.
Oh, the Mothership Core almost goes down. He can focus. It does with the Queens. It's going to disappear, so this is the only overcharge to be had. Roaches and Lings flank from the side. Zanster taking a phenomenal start to this fight. Well, Welmu still has a lot of army supply. Most of that's in Phoenix. This is not a situation that you want to be in as the Protoss. Roach is going to keep pushing forward. Ling's going to keep attacking. Zanster reinforcing with 16 more coming out behind this. An Immortal does spawn, but it's one Immortal against an army. There's so many Queens!
Well, a big problem is that the Immortal has no buffer. Like, the Phoenix is going to only try and help it out so much. There's no Zealots to soak up all the shots, so it goes down. And the second one's not going to be coming out in time. I think Zanster's all-in has done it here. It does have, like, it starts to really just, you know, taper off, of course, as it doesn't work, but it worked. GG! Still going. Good stuff.
Congratulations to Zanster, who'll take this series. Now, it is worth noting, Welmu fans, don't be too upset. He still has a chance to play in the losers bracket, so he's not quite out of it yet. But yeah, we'll see what we get into next. Now, who does Zanster going to fight against? That's a good question here. Zanster.
No one yet. I don't think.
Well, okay. Well, what about the Team Liquid? We haven't caught any Team Liquid boys. Yeah, he's got a while before he's got an opponent. I know Vortex might fight against TLO. Where's Bunny? Where's Mana on these brackets? Bunny.
Mana's waiting for Strange or Siorath.
Ooh, Bunny might fight against Happy next. Actually, that might be a TVT worth waiting on.
Okie dokie.
Actually, it sucks. Most of the Team Liquid matches are all mirror matches. Potentially. Uthermal did 2-0 Chubbs, by the way. That's damn impressive. So we'll go to a small break while we try and figure this out, guys. We will most likely grab Happy and Bunny, should that be the case, I think, though. He's playing against Funk. Maybe we get a game 2 or 3 of that. I don't know. But we'll find out soon, so don't go anywhere. We'll see you guys in... Yeah, he's in game. All right, we'll see you guys in a couple minutes.